So then we have the contrast between Rome and Jesus, the Son of Man. And I bring this painting of Nero in particular because he is pointed out as a particular individual of Rome that is singled out. And this is, and I spoke of this last time in the historical context of the number 666, or in some textual variants, 616, both of which, through numerological calculations, can be worked out to be Nero Caesar in the Latin or the Greek, depending on which textual variant you're working with. Nero's pointed out he was a reviled Caesar by many, but also understood in a strange mythical way. So we have the power of Rome, the individual of Nero, and there are stories surrounding him that are similar, it's strange to say, to the stories surrounding the figure of Jesus. So Nero, who was reviled by many of the Jesus movement because he blamed the great fire of Rome in the 60s on the Christians, right? And so that caused an outbreak of persecution against the Christians. And Nero himself, because of just the extremes in which he went to in governing Rome, was forced to commit suicide in 68 in the first century. There are a lot of stories about how that happened and how that didn't happen. So there are questions about his death, of whether that really happened or not. There's some that say he committed suicide then because he was told to by the state, and then he then was buried in this tomb. But there are others who say he went to a different place and that actually ran away into different parts. And there are also foretellings, curiously enough, of Nero coming back to life, or that he never died and that he's going to come back to Rome to resume his reign. So you see this interesting set of legends being built around a Roman ruler who ascended to the throne and then was thrown down to it, right? So this is also echoed in the one who is not and who is to come, in that kind of language. Also in the one that seemed to receive a mortal wound, possibly, but is healed again. So that's possible to understand that seventh head as Nero. But we also have, of course, the contrast in the mirror of that, which is the figure of Jesus. Of course, he is killed by the Roman state and displayed to everybody. But there's questions about what happened to his body. Will he return? And murmurings about, did they take his body from the tomb, etc. And the belief, of course, within the Jesus movement that he is going to return and be victorious. So you have those two things, in which you have strange mirroring and paralleling of these two figures within the Roman Empire. But you couldn't choose two more historically different characters, right, to talk about within the book of Revelation. And that is also played up. The idea of this power of Rome, right, able to crush anything in its path. This individual who had absolute power. But then you have the person of Jesus, who represents a minoritized group, the Jewish peoples within the Roman Empire. And within that also, right, leading a group of people who are further minoritized as a strange Jewish sect, at least in the understanding of the Asia Minor communities, possibly, that John of Patmos is writing to. And then beyond that, he is killed as an insurrectionist. Basically, if you want to boil it down of what we have from the Gospels, to think of him as killed by the Roman state, publicly executed, and made to be a spectacle in a particular way, right? So that his death is seen by many and understood by many as a shameful death, a death that's reserved for traitors, for those who are enslaved. So again, the contrast is shown, and also similarities are shown between these two that you could draw.